and welcome to Automation Rehab Podcast. My name is Sean Snowday. I am the founder and the voice of Automation Rehab. And today we have Mercer on the podcast.
Two voices today.
Measurementmarketing.io. And dude, I'm so stoked to have you on the line right now. Before we jump into it, where are you located? Are you in?
We are in the great city of Austin, Texas. It's like the digital marketing mecca.
Austin.
Happy accident. Yes.
I know, it's so crazy out there. You know, a lot of people know I'm in recovery, and I actually got sober in Austin, Texas. Oh. Great place to hit bottom.
That is the slogan line, right next to keeping it weird. It's a neck and neck between those two.
Yeah, there's a place called Emo's back then. I don't know if you ever heard of that.
No.
It was in the 90s, the early 90s. So anyhow, enough about me. So, dude, this is cool. I've been through a lot of your training. I'm in your membership site. I've studied a bunch of your material. I'm a big fan, and we can get down and dirty with some really technical things. But before we get into that, how did you get into doing all of this? Like, did something happen? Did you have a mission or what happened?
During a lightning storm, I was bitten by a radioactive spider, right? Yeah. So our origin story, we were kind of doing six-figure corporate jobs in New York, my wife and I, and we had come down to Austin, Texas, of all places, to see a friend of ours get married. Just fell in love with the place, period. It was an amazing area to be. So we're like, wow, we'll just come down here. And it felt entrepreneurial. Like, we didn't really know that many people down here. But we were like, okay, we'll come down here. It's a cool place to live. We'll just create this online business thing we've heard about down in Austin. So we basically saved up 6 months worth of money and did it the old fashioned way. Like, that's how businesses used to start. So we did that, came down, and we started an online business. And initially it was a WordPress site that trained people how to do WordPress sites. So we started that as a membership site, and that worked out well. And then it grew into customers coming to us saying, hey, this is all great, but this is a lot of work. How much for you to do this? And so my first WordPress site was a complete membership site. You'll love this. Complete membership site, everything, $500. Took me 2.5 hours, and I was like, man, that's awesome. I'm making this much money. Then I realized a year later how much you really should be charging for this. But it led into outsourcing. Right. And so now I've got this team of WordPress developers that are creating WordPress sites. And from a marketing perspective, I wanted us to differentiate. So I said, okay, well, we're going to be doing WordPress sites, then we'll optimize. Because at that point, conversion rate optimization, very few people had actually heard about. It was just starting to come onto the scene. So we're like, hey, we'll optimize. Well, in order to optimize, you've got to measure, right? You have to know where you are in order to know where you want to get to. So we started setting up Google Analytics. And pretty quickly, we went down the rabbit hole of actually realizing it's a whole lot more than just popping code on pages. You need to actually set it up and teach it. And it's a partner with you. It's not something that just does work, and you have to communicate with it and adjust it. So we started doing that, thinking this is what everybody did. Like, oh, okay, well, no one's really talked about this because everyone's doing it, obviously. So we'll just figure it out. And we did. We started showing our clients at the time, hey, here's where your lead form is being tracked and how many goals, and here's how it ties into the different traffic sources. And they were kind of like, okay, forget about the WordPress site. Like, go back to that, show me that. And then they started sending us referrals, and people weren't coming to us to talk about WordPress development. They were coming to us to figure out their analytics and their numbers. And just about almost immediately, it took like 2 or 3 of those calls. And I was like, okay, we're done WordPress stuff. Like, that's out there. Everyone's going to do this. No one is doing measurement. So we started as a done for you, sort of a boutique agency to do setups, then moved into done with you training, and then finally expanded out with the do-it-yourself offers that we have now. So now we've got all three at measurementmarketing.io.
So you actually had to scale from this to that. And then, so what was one of the main challenges before we get into the 5 pillars? What was one of the main challenges as you were scaling as a business?
It was scaling down was the main challenge, to be honest. Because typically I think you learn a lot in digital marketing world. It's like, oh, you start with your offer, and then you get a little thing out there that's a tiny bit of money, and then you charge more, then you charge more, then you charge more. We had actually started top down because we were agency first. So we started at very high level, very high end, $15,000, $20,000 packages type thing that are out there. And then you move into done with you, which was still a higher end training. For us, it was the do-it-yourself was harder because we had to learn how to change the languaging. Like, instead of doing a one-on-one sale, which obviously high-end sales, that's what it's going to be. You jump on a call with somebody, make sure it's a good fit. You have an in-depth conversation that's completely customized to that person, to the buyer. And then you have digital marketing on the wide scale for the do-it-yourself, where you've got the landing page that's your surrogate, and it's got to have a conversation with a million different people all seeing it from different directions, and give them enough information so they can make the next step. right? That's right for them. So that was a challenge for us. That's where we found the challenge, was kind of scaling down and nailing that message. One of which was coming up with the company name, where we went with measurementmarketing.io, and being that we taught measurement marketing, because we needed to stop saying things like analytics, numbers, data, even
Right.
information, right? Like that's boring. Like who's like, yeah, I want to learn analytics today. But measurement, people are like, yeah, I can measure stuff, because you think like a tape measure, right? Like a ruler at best.
That's a
It's
great
like, yeah, I can do
name.
that.
That's a great name,
Yeah.
because you got to keep it real simple.
Yeah, and that's really what the trick has been for us, is how do we tell that story in a simpler way? Exactly.
Do you ever do you study GKIC a little bit? Dan Kennedy stuff?
Okay. Yes. Yep. Yeah. I can't say that I'm an avid, like I can repeat it back, but I'm positive I've come across blog posts that have talked about it. Yeah.
Yeah. They have a story in there where this lady wrote a book called Astrological Love, and it was for men. Would you read that book? No. You look like a guy that would read that book.
Right.
No?
I can't read Astrological Love.
Right. So she renamed it How to Pleasure Any Woman and Have Her Begging for More.
And that was, now that, right. I got my credit card around here somewhere. Hang on. No? Yeah, so it's exactly right. It's all about the hook. Yep.
Yeah. So that's great. So then like the downscale. So one of the interesting things about this, a good friend of mine, he was making 30 grand a month on his own. Mm-hmm. And then he said, I'm going to go agency. He went agency, got 15 employees, a bunch of headaches, and then he's making 30 grand a month. And he's like, dude, I got more headaches than I need.
I was in the right spot to begin with. Yeah.
So did you have anything like going from working many, many hours and just being overwhelmed? Like we all go through those tiers.
Yeah.
And then you get to the point you outsource and you kept it. Did you scale from there, or did you just keep it simple?
Yeah. So I looked toward that, and I definitely could. To this day, I still could. I could hire a bunch of people and scale out, because there's an enormous market and demand for these services out there, and more every day now that people are finally kind of waking up to the power of that. But I looked at it, and I chose at that point early on, I did not want to scale. And so what we did instead was created a certification where I could train, because I do a lot of talking on stages like traffic conversion, places like that. So I'd come off stage, people were like, oh, how much for you to set up my goals? I was like, we really don't do that work. We're just really trying to help you to do it, especially for smaller companies. And so that led to the next question of like, well, who do you know? And we knew people that were very technically proficient in these tools, but they don't really get the marketing aspect of it. They don't necessarily why they're setting it up like that, or what questions they're trying to answer with it. So I created the certification to train certified measurement marketers, so I could basically inject over and say, hey, you can take these referrals now. And that's the origin of basically what created a whole new product line for us, which was certifications. Cool. Now, happy accident from that, there's a lot of them that have come back to us and saying, listen, we love doing this work. We just don't really want to sell an awful lot. Like, could you sell? And then we'll work with you and we'll partner to help you fulfill. So that actually doubled back and helped us expand out our done for you services, because we work with them to do that. So now I've got this almost agency-like, without having the full-time staff, right? But I have people that I've trained personally and trust and support all the time. We support each other on these things, so it's actually worked out even better than going down.
So with that model, was it something that I know that you had a vision, right?
Yeah.
But then did this kind of manifest separately from your vision?
The certified measurement marketing plan?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's so the vision for the certified measurement marketers were, I'm going to create this so I can have people that I can legit, like if you came to me and said, hey, you could do this, I could say, go talk to, Ahmad or John or Scott or whoever, and they would be solid, right? I would know that. Right. And so that was the initial vision. That's all I really cared about, that I could do that because I wanted to take care of you as a customer and not have you randomly go to somebody else who probably isn't really doing the right things or doesn't know exactly the way we do it. So that was the step one. Then when it doubled back, we had people coming back to us saying, listen, how about we don't want to manage the client. We don't want to take the payments. We don't want to have to, do all of that stuff. So if you run that, can we just do the work? We really love the work. And so now we've got both options. So I might recommend somebody to Rita because she's amazing doing funnel builds and loves working with the lady boss style, entrepreneur. That's her thing. I might do a mod for Shopify sites. He's an expert in Shopify stuff, right? John for like Squarespace or Google Ads help that people need to optimize for that. And so, we have all of these, but they coming back to us is what they took the vision and leveled it up I think is the best way to explain it. It wasn't me saying, oh, how about this, guys? It was them coming saying, you know, what would be better is if we could you do this? Could you do that? And that's what I love about it, is the market helped us evolve.
I actually just went through that because I have, like, I don't like being the front man. I have to be the front man. I have a live event tomorrow. I got to be in front of everyone, and it's very stressful. And then but I'm a geek, you know?
Yeah.
That's what Automation Rehab is. It's a bunch of entrepreneurial geeks. You know?
How do we tweak the system? Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And so then what happened is, you know, all of this kind of manifested. I have a coach, and they kind of like steer me, and then I do what they ask me to do, and it doesn't work. I just do it my own way, but like most people.
So
but then you came up with the 5 pillars. So
yeah,
let's go a little bit into those. So
sure.
So with those, of course, we're going to do, you know, talk about the 5 pillars, and then like just, you can either do like a deep dish or a sample platter, however you want to speak about it. But what are the 5 pillars, and how did you come up with them?
Yeah, the 5 pillars were really our way of helping a company figure out what they need to do in measurement marketing, like figure out the actual process of going from like, what is it from point A to point B, so to speak, right? To move through that system, and to help them integrate the concept of measurement marketing. So it wasn't one person who was doing the measurement. It was the company was a measurement culture now. Because that's important. You need to have everybody on the same page. If somebody's not tagging in an email with UTM tracking properly, then it's messing up the reports that somebody else is looking at, trying to figure out what traffic sources do what. You know, so you need everybody kind of on board. So our concept with the 5 pillars was to go through and break these down into a series of stages that you could move through, regardless if you're doing our stuff or anything else. But if you still go through these stages, and this is important because even if you're not buying our programs, these stages still apply. So the first one is planning. Surprisingly, this is the one that everybody skips. So most people just kind of go on, they start throwing code on pages, and they start using the information that comes through to try to hack through their data and figure out like what the magic secret sauce is that's going to make them a millionaire overnight. Does not exist, but it's an urban legend and everybody follows it. That's the initial sort of learning curve. If you plan, you go through the following process. You're going to think about, okay, what questions do I actually want to get answers to? And you would it doesn't have to be complicated. Write them down on a piece of paper. What questions do I want to get answers to? What information will I need to be able to get those answers? And then this is the most important one. What actions will I take based on the answer I get? And so you role play that process. Again, before you even start building anything or copying code or doing anything, you go question, information, and answer. We call it the KIA method. So question, information, or action. Now that action, if you get to a point where you're like, hey, I've got this information, I can answer this question, but I actually don't know what I would do with that. Now you're just measuring for measuring's sake. And it's a way to help you get rid of the clutter that otherwise you would have tracked, right? You would have built, everyone's probably got this story where you see a dashboard, or you pay a bunch of money for a dashboard, and then you end up not using it because you're like, I still don't know what to do with it because it's just a bunch of information. That's because there's no action. Yeah, it's no action. So you always tie it down to action in the planning stage. And then you're also role playing how you're going to use the ultimate dashboard or the ultimate report that you're going to build. And so you get an idea of like, well, if Facebook is above $100 CPA, I'll do this. If it's below $100 CPA, I'll take this sort of action. And it helps you figure out how you would use everything, right? So you sort of role play all that in the planning stage. Once you've got your plan built, you sort of have the initial idea of all the different questions that you're going to get answers to and the actions that are going to allow you to take. Then you move on to the build. Now the build is where like Tag Manager comes in, or Google Analytics, and you're basically collecting the information that you want to collect, which is what Tag Manager is built for. It's an amazing tool. So if somebody's not using that, absolutely look into that tool. So it collects all the different behaviors that are coming in, and then it sends those behaviors to a platform to get stored. So the platform that we like using is Google Analytics because it just fits really well with Tag Manager. But we also send a ton of stuff to Facebook because obviously Facebook can use it for better targeting and for using Facebook Analytics and other platforms over there. And so what's cool about Tag Manager is it's sort of platform agnostic. It doesn't really care, it just collects data and then it sends it to whoever you want to send it to. So we use Tag Manager to collect the data. We use Google Analytics to then store the data. And at that point, we've got the questions planned out. Now in the build, we should have the information we need somewhere, right? It's stored somewhere. Then it moves into reporting. So you got building, or the planning, building, and then reporting. Reporting's where the dashboards come in. So you can use spreadsheets if that happens to be your jam. Some people are, they just love spreadsheets, and that's cool. I'm kind of like that. I like spreadsheets. You can use the built-in reports with Google Analytics. The problem is with most marketers, they don't just answer one question. They try to answer 400 questions, and there's a ton of details, and then somebody's like, what's a bounce rate? And what's the difference between bounce rate and exit rate? And then you're down a rabbit hole and you don't use it. It just overwhelms you. So instead of that, use Data Studio. So there's Google Data Studio, yet another free platform for them. And what that does is report. It's built to build reports. So you've got collect, you've got store, and then you've got report. So now Tag Manager is collecting all the information. Analytics is storing it all. Data Studio is now building out your dashboards based on what it gets from Google Analytics. And it's there to answer those questions. And so now you get all of your answers in a dashboard that's very, very focused on delivering answers, not information, right? So I think good dashboards give you information, but great dashboards give you answers. And so when you get those answers, what should you do? Naturally be taking the action that you plan to take in the first steps. Now those three are starting to pull together. Now, once you have that.
But one thing really quick, because my mind, because I'm a Boolean guy, and at stage 3, you're going to ask a question, and then the answer thing, I go into the question could be answered 3 ways. And then I start integrating with all these other softwares and making all this stuff happen. So to not go down the rabbit hole that you're talking about, is this all UTM based?
It depends. It depends on the question you're trying to answer.
Okay.
Right. So sometimes you'll want to answer a question like, what's my CPA, right? What's my cost to acquire? So it's keeping it very simple. And one of the phrases we have here is you get good enough to get going, then you come back and make it better. Because otherwise you get caught up in that, well, it'd be really better. It'd be interesting to know. And that's like the death knell of measurement. Because now it's like, okay, now we're going, like you said, you're going down this rabbit hole and you can't get out of it now. Meanwhile, you don't have anything, right?
So if we back up to number 1.
So you back up to 1 and say cost per acquisition. And you say, that's ad spend divided by customers. Cool. Now we've got cost to acquire a customer, let's say, right?
Well, I'm talking about the foundation, the very first thing you talked about.
In terms of the planning, right?
Yeah.
So that's an example of a question you might ask at the plan, right? And then you would build to make sure that you're measuring how much you're spending on your money. Maybe you're getting that from Facebook and putting to a little spreadsheet, right? And again, it doesn't have to be complicated. It can be written down on a piece of paper for all I care, as long as you're measuring it. And then you would write down the number of customers you got and you divide those two out. Now,
but that's what keeps everything simple, right?
Exactly. Okay. Exactly. But here's what will happen. And to your point, these pillars, you'll rotate through. It's almost like a cycle. Because you'll come back, right? So eventually you'll say, okay, I do a report and the report shows me that my cost per acquisition is $100. Well, then you see that and you're like, well, I need to forecast out. That's the 4th pillar. I'm going to forecast out what next week's cost per acquisition is going to be. And then you think to yourself, well, actually, I've got 2 paid traffic sources. I do Facebook and I do LinkedIn. I wonder if those are different. And now you're like, well, can I measure that? No, I don't actually, I can't answer that right now because I'm not measuring that. But that's a planning question. Now I need to do by traffic source. Now you improve your measurement plan and you start UTMing. And now Google can tell you, oh, here's the difference between Facebook and LinkedIn, right? Or your CRM will. And then you can break it down. And then you might go further and say, well, yeah, but we have a group on Facebook. Are they coming in better? Are they cheaper coming in from the group on Facebook? Or is it better from the ads that I'm spending on my page? You're like, okay, well, let's tag that. And you improve your setup to answer more complicated questions. But if you sit there and think about, well, what about this or this or this or this or this, you make your implementation project so big that it's less likely to actually ever get done because it's so big. So you have to start with the basics to be like, you know what, that's a good, and this is how you mentally do that. You go, that's a good phase 2 question. And you write it down in the phase 2 block and you come back to what can I do right now with what I've got? Because the important thing is to show progress. It's for yourself or for others, right? So if you're working with a stakeholder or a client, they're not going to have the patience for you to work 6 months on the perfect implementation. They need to get answers now. So you say, hey, here's what we can give you now. Meanwhile, we're going back and we're improving the setup so that in a few weeks or a month or whatever it is, you can get these answers later. And then after that, we're going to go back and do it again. So that 2 months, you'll be able to answer things like this. And you phase that in. And that's how you get out of that, trapping yourself into the mire. That curse of knowledge.
That's what I like about this whole 5-pillar thing is because definitely without this conversation that I'm having with you, like I just think so big and I'm like, oh, this is a lot more complicated than it needs to be. So this is going to take me about 2 months to build.
Yeah.
So I'm just not even going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So I'll recap the 5 pillars, but I want to talk quickly about the measurement journey too, because it ties into that.
Okay.
So 5 pillars: planning, building, reporting, forecasting, which is when you get your reports and say, okay, here's what should happen next week. And then optimizing, right? Which is where you'll see, hey, especially if you're tracking a funnel or something, you'll see where you're hitting the mark and where you're not. And then you can adjust, right? So that's kind of the 5 pillars. But to what you just mentioned about, so the way we talk about this is the measurement journey. Everybody starts in the dark cave. Everybody. A lot of people aren't even aware they're in a cave, right? They're stumbling around in the dark and they're just like a fish in water. They have no idea they're in water. Same sort of concept with most marketers. They have no idea that they have no idea what's working and how it's working, right, until they start doing paid traffic. Then they start spending money. They start answering that. They start asking that question, like, "Hey, what happened to that $100 we just spent?" Or worse, it goes from 100 and it totally works, and then 500 and it totally works, and then now they're doing $1,000 a day and it totally works until it stops. And then they go, "What just happened? What broke?" And then everyone looks around like, "I don't know, like it was just making money. Now it's not making money." And they're like, "You have no idea how this machine's been built?" And the label's like, "No." Now you realize you're in a dark cave, right? That's where everybody starts.
Yep.
Then the trick to that is get out of there. And that's your basic stuff. UTMing, tracking down to result, not just the result of the final sale, but along the way results. Like how many people were aware of the fact that we even sold this product? How many people actually engaged with us as we were selling the product to them? And how many people actually completed the process? Because you'll see different traffic sources actually can achieve different results better. Some are better at awareness, some are better at engagement, some are better at completing the sale that you want them to do. So that's sort of the basics. It's what we call the valley of visibility. You can answer very basic questions, but at least you have some idea of what's going on so you can improve your machinery. Eventually, and this is the sort of the stages, you'll move into the hills, which is like a level up. You get a little bit more visibility, the lay of the land, but you have to improve your setup. You might be doing some custom dimensions in Google Analytics to track by affiliate or something, because that's what you now need to know. And then eventually, we call the summit. It's like where you helicopter up in the summit and you're answering all sorts of questions like, what are my CP, what are my, we call it velocity return, but essentially it's like lifetime value over time. So what are my customers worth on day 0, day 7, day 14, day 60, day 90, broken down by product type, broken down by lead source coming in. So I can really, really know what categories I need to go and target, right? You can definitely get all there. That's all summit level stuff. It is complicated to get those answers. Not easy, because you have to get different platforms are coming involved and you got to set up the data in the right way so you can actually connect the dots and get those answers. But if you're in the cave and somebody tells you you can get this sort of stuff up here in the summit, you're unlikely to move at all, because to your point, now you're like, this is going to take me forever. I don't even know how to get started. And really it's forget about that. That's phase 4. Do phase 1. Get out of the cave, get UTMs, get goals. Get something, get some sort of progress, and know that you'll come back and make it better, and know that's how it's supposed to be done. That's not you like having to like, because you're weak and can't do it. And so you have to take the baby way out. That's not, it's just how it's done. You measure implementation to the skills that you currently have to answer the questions, the very simplest questions first, because those questions will guide future questions. And then you improve your implementation if you can't get answers, and then just keep following that pattern, and you'll be doing that forever. Like that's just how it works.
Do you have like, and I don't want to go way too deep into the UTM, but do you have like a specific naming convention?
Yes. Okay. Yes, I do. That's all I'm gonna say about that. No, I'm joking. So yes. So here's the UTMs, and I'll give you, there's a traffic tracking toolkit. So remind me at the end, because I'll give you a link to that, but you can get the toolkit has a spreadsheet tool that you can use to help structure, because the structure is the important part. And I'll talk about that in just a moment. It's got a whole 30-page book on there to really go through the ins and outs of how to do it all. And there's also a training video. So it'll go into a lot more detail than what I'm about to do here. But if the topic interests you, if you need it, that's the toolkit will be the perfect place to get all that. But so UTMs, for those that are not familiar, tag in your traffic sources. It's a way of you telling Google Analytics, here's where this person came from. And there's 5 of them that you can do. So you've got the source, which is the brand of the traffic. It's the brand name of the traffic. So if they came from YouTube, it's YouTube. If it came from Facebook, it's Facebook. We use Infusionsoft as our email automation. So the source of traffic from an email is Infusionsoft, because that's the brand of that traffic source. So that's the source. And this is all important, because the more that you structure these UTMs, the more nicely they play together at when they all sort of arrive in Google Analytics. So you start with the branded source of traffic. Then there's something called the medium. And you'll see these in little parameters that say like UTM_medium. And that's the type of traffic that's coming through. So paid traffic, we call CPC. So it'll be CPC is how we'll call it, or what we'll put in there. Share, if it's something that we're posting on Facebook, but we're not boosting at all, we'll just say it's share. And that tells us it's on that we're something we're just putting out there, but not necessarily something we're boosting. And then we've got, let's see, email would be an obvious one coming from Infusionsoft. We have email. We also have partner traffic that comes from our Infusionsoft because we use Infusionsoft to track our affiliate stuff. So partner traffic comes through as partner, right? From the Infusionsoft platform. Speaking, if I'm live on stage, I have speaking. Podcast. So traffic that comes from this podcast will be tagged in our system as Automation Rehab as the source, and it'll show podcast as the type of traffic. Now, why is this important? Because I can go and I can say, show me just how my podcast traffic is doing when I'm a guest on podcasts, and I'll see all the different podcasts I've been on and the results that they're achieving for me. And I can compare that to live on stage speaking. And I can see that some talk I did back in March at maybe social media marketing world is still bringing in traffic today. Like that's useful for me to be able to measure that sort of stuff. And that's just the source and the medium. Then there's the campaign. That's a third thing you can tag in, or you should tag in. The campaign is the point of the traffic. So what is this traffic trying to generate? So for us, we've got all these little individual courses. We call them win courses. They stand for like what I need to know, right? So what I need now. And they're very focused to get, you don't need to learn everything about analytics. You need to learn the stuff that gets you moving and then you get out, right? And that's kind of what these courses are. So we have something called all these win courses. We call that campaign win. So if the traffic source is designed, if the traffic coming in is designed to eventually purchase that program, if that's the point of it, then they go to the campaign of win. So I might have Facebook CPC, that's an ad that's there for win. That's what it's going to say. Facebook CPC, the campaign will be win. Then maybe I have an email that they're in our email system and I'm giving them a reminder that the win course is available. It'll be Infusionsoft email and the campaign will be win. Let's say you send us traffic as an affiliate. Your traffic would come through as Infusionsoft partner, campaign would be win. So they all have the same campaign. This is the first thing that people do wrong is they split up their campaign names. Every traffic source has a totally different campaign than the others. They're not coordinated. So you need to have them coordinated because in the back of Google Analytics, I can say, how is my win traffic doing? And I can click on that and it shows a whole report that'll show me, here's all the different brands that are sending you traffic. Here's the different types that are sending you traffic. And then here are all the results you're getting from that traffic. So it makes it easy for me to make a decision.
Yeah. And for the listeners, how much do they have to pay a month for this dashboard?
That's included in Google Analytics. That's a built-in report. It's totally free. All of this is free. Everything I've talked about is free, with the exception of buying our courses, but everything else is free. And the traffic toolkit thing I'll give you. So that'll be free.
And so the reason that
much you can get for free. Yeah.
The reason you want to go through these courses, this is exactly why you want to go through these courses. For the people listening to the podcast, is because of the structure of it. And if it's not structured correctly, you can really get, and a lot of us are geeks that listen to this, and the way we think so globally that we just don't keep it real simple. And that's just what you did with the structure of the UTM. So that you could see what's happening from stem to stern at a glance, right?
Yeah, it's a lot easier. So the way that we talk about this with Google Analytics, like if I gave you a book, let's say like Goldilocks and the Three Bears, if I give you that book and say, can you read me the story? Could you read me the story?
Yeah.
Of course, right? Now, if I rip out the pages and I throw them in the air and they all fall around you, could you read me the story? Technically.
Read it backwards.
You could technically read it, right? But you'd have to get into pages.
Fiction version.
Yeah, right? You'd have to figure out like where the different pages are. You'd have to put them in order. Maybe a page slipped under the couch and you never find it. So you got to make some assumptions and the part that was missing of the story. That's how Google Analytics is by default. It's a bunch of pages ripped out, scattered on the floor. It's in there somewhere, but it's not at all presented in a format that makes it easy to read. So which makes it really hard to find answers, which is why if you've ever used analytics and you're like, God, I have no idea what to do with this. I have no idea what this means. That's why. It's like if I gave you a story, simple storybook like that, ripped out the pages, you would still have no idea, right? Because you didn't know to put it in an order. So what we do is we'll show in Google Analytics how to organize that. So like UTMs, that's one of the secrets, so that you can structure the information coming in so that when you look at analytics, it just naturally tells a story because that's what it wants to do. It just has to be set up to do that. And people don't realize that.
Didn't you create something for the digital marketer ambassador program?
Yeah.
And then so what happened is, because I'm an ambassador and I still use that dashboard because I can see who's like crushing it and who's not.
Yeah.
And I'm moving slowly up. And
That's excellent.
So when I
Yeah.
look at this, it's like my goal is to be number one. I'm not going to be number one because I already know why. I already researched them. I'm like, okay, that ain't going to happen in my world.
I'll be a strong number 2.
Yeah. But it makes me, and now I can think. So as an entrepreneur, and the reason that they want to go to measurementmarketing.io and get this information, there's free information, there's also paid information, is and just start out with the free. Just download
100%.
a lot of the little Excel spreadsheets and a lot of the little tools that you have available help you build that mindset so you start thinking differently as a business owner, not as a marketer, to where you're thinking, how can I grow my business? And you actually see the numbers. And when you see those numbers, then you're like, okay, I need to make that one a 0, or I need to make that 0 a 1, right?
Yeah. It becomes a lot easier. In the beginning, people think this is really complicated, but when you understand it, like if I literally told you, hey, you're trying to read a storybook, but you're doing it one page at a time and they're all out of order. And you go, oh, I didn't realize that. Let me just get all the pages, put them in order. And now I can read it. It becomes a lot easier. And it doesn't mean that you're a horrible reader in the beginning. And now all of a sudden you're an amazing reader, right? Because your reading skill is the same. It's just how the information is coming through. So if you've ever thought like, I'm not a numbers person, that's okay. Like it makes sense that it's still complicated. It's not because you're not a numbers person. It's because the information is just hard to get to. But you can do certain things in Google Analytics to make it a whole lot easier to see that story, your traffic story and your results story.
But you can also color code it, right?
In Google Analytics?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do
that data. What's the thing?
So now that one is Data Studio, and that's what we really like, because Google Analytics is, I think it can definitely have reports back there, but they can be a little dense sometimes in how they're built, and you have to be probably more on the data end to really enjoy that experience. Yeah. But if you're not, it's okay, because you use Data Studio, and that's what we did for digital marketing. We built their ambassador dashboard, was working with them to say, okay, what questions are you trying to answer? How would the affiliate use this? And that's when we made it like interactive, where you can click on different things and then see what this one affiliate is promoting, and all the different results that are coming through. We designed it with that in mind. We went through that exact planning process with them, right? Plan it, build out everything, and then did the report for the dashboard. But it's focused, right? You're not looking at like bounce rate and other stuff that has nothing to do at all with the questions you're trying to answer. It's a very focused dashboard, focused to give you the answers you want at that time, so you can take the actions that you need to do, in your case as an affiliate, as an ambassador for them. So the exact same concept that you can build for yourself as your own company. And again, Data Studio is free, right? Tag Manager is free, Analytics free, Data Studio free. The worst thing about them is it's just sometimes hard to use them, because the manual, it's not as easy to learn how to use them. That's kind of what we exist for. But to your point, we've got a ton of resources that if you've got some gumption and want to tackle it on your own, that's great. Use our resources to do that, because especially the traffic tracking toolkit, because it'll save you a ton of time, and also help you get a little more squeeze out of that juice there. Yeah, I should say juice from the squeeze.
That's and again, this is for the geeky people. So like a business owner, and I know some digital marketers really well, and I'm like, okay, there's nothing digital marketer about you. You're just not technical. Yeah. You're the front man, you're the salesperson, but you don't understand, like they wouldn't understand this. This isn't for that particular business owner.
What? Let me give you, this is a very, especially because concerning the audience, right? So in Infusionsoft, which we love automation. We had a problem where we would get these emails forwarded from members or whatever that would say, hey, by the way, this link is broken. And we're like, great. And now of course, if everyone's experienced Infusionsoft, you have 1 million campaigns back there. We're like, where did this email come from? Like, I have no idea what this email is. And it was a pain to try to track these things down. So what we started doing is, one of the other UTM tags you can use is called content. So this goes back to the traffic tracker, right? Source, medium, the campaign, which is the point of it all. Then we have term, where we put in like the email subject line. So that was one way for us to find it. But we started using the content section for Infusionsoft, and it's got 3 numbers. First number is the campaign ID. Then it has dash. Then the second number is the sequence number in that campaign. Then it has dash. Then the third number is the email number in that sequence. So now we actually it's not used at all for any sort of tracking from a marketing perspective. It's a map. So when they send us something like that, we can click on the link. We can see the UTMs. We go like, oh, that email is, in this campaign or this sequence number. So we can go right there and find it. And it saves us a ton of time from an automation perspective, because we know where to find everything now. So that's another way that you can use analytics beyond marketing, just to make your operations life easier.
Yeah. Yeah. And I actually have a website, Data Driven Dashboard, and I talk about UTMs for like an hour.
Mm.
And
It
it's
is.
like, but you know, you don't.
They're the thing that a lot of people don't realize you can even do, right?
Yeah.
And it is one of the most important steps to if you're going to do anything in Google Analytics, it's tag your traffic, because everything you're going to ask is about, well, how did this traffic source work? But if Google Analytics doesn't know what you mean by retargeted Facebook that I did for this campaign, then it can't answer that question, even if you are tracking all the results. So tracking traffic, it's worth spending an hour talking about, because it's a huge thing.
Do you know Jeremy Shapiro with, I think, Fuse Desk?
Not personally, no,
Well,
but I know the name for sure. Yeah.
He wrote an app, and it's a WordPress plugin, but like I could run a Facebook ad in the UTM, say like I'm selling shoes.
Yep.
I could run a shoe, and you click on it, and then you opt in, and you go, oh, wait a minute, I just want socks. Well, I know in Infusionsoft that you clicked on the shoe ad.
Yeah.
Because of the UTM, and I can automate a custom field and go, okay, you bought the socks, and then a week later I go, hey, do you want to buy this shoe?
I love that.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the other thing, is you start connecting the platforms together so they share information, right? Because Infusionsoft can do a really good segmented conversation between the end user, right, and your brand or your company. Google Analytics could never do that. So you can take advantage of something that Google Analytics can see and go through.
Your dashboard actually, like the difference between what I just said and what you're saying is, at a glance, you can look and said, oh, they clicked on shoe, but they bought a sock.
Yeah.
And I don't have to I know what's happening with my business. I know, you know, where the upsells and the downsells and all the cross sells are throughout my business just by using the dashboard.
I'll tell you a huge pro tip to know if you've nailed a dashboard, nailed any report at all that you're doing for whatever level you're at. I mean, you build it for yourself or for your clients, right? But this is how you measure if you've really nailed what this is supposed to do. And the way that I think about this is the car dashboard, right? So if you're driving in your car, you look at your speedometer and you look down, you instantly know, do I hit the brake or do I hit the gas, right? Am I going too fast or too slow? And you adjust accordingly. The information, the answer that you're getting from that car dashboard, from that speedometer in that case, the answer you get inherently gives you the action. You don't need to think about it. There's no something to analyze. There's no symbols to go back and try to decompose. You just know what to do next because you got the answer. That's like your spirit animal for marketing dashboards. So if you get to the marketing dashboard and just by looking at the answer that comes back, you know, this is what I need to do. That's how you know you're like, cool, done. This dashboard's perfect. But if that doesn't happen, where it's like, well, now I need to do this, and I got to go look at this other report to connect the dots, then you go back and say, okay, well, can I make this even simpler so it does do that? So the answer itself gives me the action I want to take. And remember, you don't do that in the reporting phase trying to figure it out. You do that in the planning phase when you're thinking about what questions, what information, what actions will I take based on that. That's when that comes in and you start role playing that stuff.
Right. So you were talking about during the podcast to remind you of something. I can't remember. I don't have it.
Measurement. We talked about it. Measurement journey.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. To say, so the idea of that cave, because you had mentioned, you're like, hey, I make these implementations, these ideas, I come up with my plan, they're huge. And now I'm like, this is too long. It's going to take me forever. And so you don't do it. Right. Or use some push button tool that kind of gets you something. But personally, I think these tools are amazing. They can answer just about any question you want as long as you know how to use them. So either you or somebody else in your team should learn them eventually, if not now, but you start it where you are, right? So if you're in the cave, you're doing simple stuff because that's going to give you impact. You're not worried about velocity of return broken down by lead type because you can't even see basic traffic sources coming in from Facebook groups or not. Like, so focus on UTMs and get that and stay where you are. Then you move into the valley visibility. Then you move up to the hills. Then you go to the summit and you do it in that order. If you try to do a summit style setup from the beginning without being, already prepped in the hills, you're going to get overwhelmed and you're going to get frustrated. And if you've ever tried it before, it's probably what happened.
Yeah. And that's, I just ran something and it was a good failure for me because I was running this campaign and it started costing me 3 times more than I wanted to spend. So I said, okay, well, I'll just let it run for a while just because I just need to get the numbers.
Yeah.
And then I turned it off and I said, look, I did this completely wrong and I have to go back and rebuild it and then get it back to, what I want to spend. but with what you're doing with this dashboard, it is so much more than what I did, because I was just doing a like campaign.
Yeah.
And what you're doing is you're seeing the whole business from stem to stern.
Yes.
Everything, even down to the emails,
yes,
the Facebook ads, the Google
yes.
ads,
yes.
the LinkedIn ads, anything. And you could even do boosts and maybe even stuff within the just posting in LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Now, are there certain tools that you use, like automation tools, that you use to automatically post to these different social media?
We haven't yet. I mean, I used to use back in the day Buffer. You know, it was a good standby. Buffer was always a thing.
Right.
What we actually, it's funny because we talked about this 2 days ago with our marketing director. We're going to revert back, and we're building systems in place now where humans are going to do it. Because I just have a thing. I just think that there's whenever you see that automated tool that does the thing, I'm guessing that the platform also knows that, and it's going, I'm just going to you're not as real as the other guy who just posted. Yeah. So we'll boost his stuff, but you maybe not so much, unless a lot of people start reacting, but they make it harder because it's not going to go in front of as many people. So our thinking, and we're going to test it, is, okay, if we do this as humans and take an extra 15 minutes a day or whatever it's going to be, the trick is systemizing it. So now we're coming up with, we're not just jumping in there and doing it. It's like, okay, here's the SOP, here's the structure, here's what you're going to paste, and people are going to create the content so that it's basically copy and paste for the person that needs to go enter this stuff in. So it is a human that's doing it, and it's good quality content, and it's somewhat automated. I mean, not really, but in terms of a system creating the end result, right? That we can farm it out to other people to do it, but it's always a person versus using a bot.
And they're probably just looking at the IP and going, oh, that IP is being used all over the place, and just push it.
Well, you even see in Facebook, it'll say like posted by Buffer app or something, so platforms see this, they're coming through the APIs. They know who's doing it. And it just makes sense that they're not going to want to, if you posted something and then I post it with a Buffer app, it makes more sense. They're going to try to boost your stuff ahead of time because they know you're a person. Really, they know me. They don't know what that I am. I might not even respond or great engagement. That's all they care about is engagement.
I've never heard anyone say what you just said. And I bet you a lot of people listening to this podcast never even considered that, because, I'm always talking with different people. And what I love about this podcast most is I get to talk to these experts, and I'm like, oh, I want to go do that right now. And then, and then I get lost, and then I go back to the jungle. But the thing with what you're saying is really interesting. Now, if you were to do this more manual, then how would you structure that? Are you using like a spreadsheet, or, I mean, I know
probably. Yeah, I probably would, because we do workshops every week, right? We call them Workshop Wednesday, another free resource people can take advantage of. So we do these workshops, and we also have Toolbox Thursday. So we try to build as a company whatever we're doing so that it's a repeatable, replicatable system, and it's the system that produces the result, not the person. So if we ever have to rely on anybody remembering to do something, we're like, okay, we got to pull that into a system so we don't have to rely on memory. So what we did for Workshop Wednesday and Toolbox Thursday, and for our win courses that we create, we use the same structure, which is just a spreadsheet. And then every column is a new episode or a new topic or whatever it is. And then underneath the column is like, okay, here's a link to the photo. Here's the description they're going to copy and paste. Here's the call to action that you're going to put in there. Here is the UTM'd link. So you have everything so that somebody can go in there. And if they get assigned, we use Asana as a project manager. So if they get assigned the Asana task to go post this in LinkedIn, they can grab it, and they have all the pieces and parts in that spreadsheet. They just go to LinkedIn, copy and paste it, and they're assembling in LinkedIn. They're not creating a dish from scratch. They're not prepping the food in the kitchen or anything like that. That's already done. All they need to do is just dump the food in a skillet and microwave it for 10 seconds or whatever, right? Like that's kind of what the premise of that is. And that system has worked really well for us for anything that is a syndicated, consistent, repeatable thing, whether it's once a month or once a quarter or once a week. It doesn't matter. That system's worked really, really well for us. So we'll make, for this one, that's what we're building out. We're using that same structure to do that for all the different platforms.
So how would you track that? I mean, the manual to the automated, are you going to have a certain like name
We're
and
so to be honest, we're not going to test it. So I'm not, because I don't think we don't send enough traffic from either one of those to say like I'm gonna have enough traffic coming in to know if it came from a Buffer app or something else. They do UTM their stuff, so you would see it coming through as, oh, this is Buffer and this is something else or whatever, and you can change UTMs accordingly. We're just making the switch. We just kind of we're kind of on that line of like, you know, the ad platforms, or not the ad platforms, the social media platforms want humans engaging with humans. Bots are always going to be second player citizens in that world, right? They always will. So we're going to take the human versus human thing, and we're going to be humans now engaging with humans and just assembling stuff. But how do we make it easier? Because that doesn't happen. I mean, we made that decision like, hey, let's go ahead and do that, and everyone went, okay, fine, and then nobody ever did anything because there's no system. Right. There's no structure. And somebody had to think about, well, what am I going to write? What's the headline supposed to be? Well, that's a lot of work. Let me just get this other thing done real quick. And I'll come back to that tomorrow. Fast forward 8 weeks, right? It's not getting done. So we're like, okay, we're going to do the system. We're going to plan our system, and we're going to make sure that the structure is there. So all these questions that need to be answered, like what the headline needs to be, or what the content's going to be, what the call to action, what are the UTMs, what's the short link, all that stuff has been done already. So that by the time if it's me, by the time I'm going into LinkedIn, I am literally just assembling or, having somebody assemble the stuff. It's not, I don't have to think about it. I should just be copying and pasting it. So it's just brain dead simple, which makes it more likely to actually happen. So that's kind of in the stage that we're building all that out now so that we can see this. And again, I don't have the hard data other than just knowing how the algorithms work in the platforms to know that they definitely want human-to-human interaction, and whatever they can do to make that happen, they will. And I think it'll be easier for us to win that game in being a human as opposed to being the bot.
Yeah, this is so cool. I just got in how there's like these coaches out there, and they're like, this certain person was saying, I'm leaving Infusionsoft, and I'm like, okay, go ahead and leave. I go, but you're going to have the same problem you have from, when you move to another platform. And she was saying, well, I did and she was saying all this stuff from 10 years ago. Well, I've done this and this and this. I'm like, so are you looking at your open rate? Oh yeah, I got a great open rate. I got 100. I go, okay, we got something called engagement now. And if you're not engaged, I don't care what you did 5 years ago or 9 years ago.
It does not apply. You're exactly right.
What you're talking about is so bleeding edge. Is like, we went like all Terminator 2, and you're coming back.
So right. True. We're so true. We're like, all right, let's get humans back involved, and let's like shake some hands occasionally. Yeah. Yeah, it's so true, because it's our, it's a digital world. So instantly you're like, how do I make this that I don't have to do any work, and all the bots can just talk with themselves? And until they get bots that automatically buy stuff, that bot thing won't work. As soon as that happens, as soon as somebody puts a bot in charge of buying stuff for them, then okay, cool. Now I'm there, because now it's just algorithm versus algorithm, and then, but it'll be a long time till somebody starts doing that, I think.
Yeah.
In terms of buying products and services.
It's funny because you were saying, and I just lost it, but it had to do with the going back to the human. Oh, I know what it is. I say to everybody, I go, look, right now, Mercer, someone that wants to buy from you, and all you got to do is pick up the phone and call them. They're thinking about you. They've been thinking about you for a while. Yep. And it's just, you just need that human interaction, and just say, hey, what's up? How's it going? I was just wondering and just have a conversation with them, not even salesy, right? Yep. We all know that person, but we're too busy building this, like, oh, over here, there's this, I am Mr. ADD, like freaking, I own all these tools that I'm never going to use, just like everybody else. So this is really kind of cool that we went from these like 5 pillars to just interacting with people at a human level, and
I'll give you a quick story on that, because this is something that we're starting to put it more and more into practice. Obviously, just from our company too. Like how do we do this more? Roland Frazier had posted on Facebook this incredible post of like how to build a business. He was talking to Justin that runs Ad Skills. Sorry, Justin
Rondo.
No, it wasn't Justin Rondo. Justin that runs Ads. God, Justin's going to kill me. I'm missing his last name at the moment. But I just remember him as Jay Bizzle all the time. So, because he's in there on that Slack. But Justin runs Ad Skills, which is a huge like Google Ads training platform. Awesome, right, at that stuff. So Justin and and Roland were talking about building business and structure and kind of, you know, build a big business, and don't, you know, here's how the differences are, and you got to think differently. And then Roland sort of condensed in this really long post, massive post, and he tagged a bunch of people. And I was tagged in there as like the analytics guy. I'm the data guy. If you want to learn numbers, you got to learn from Chris Mercer, and which was awesome. And then everybody's commenting, and he tagged like James Altucher in there and everybody else. So everyone's sort of saying, thanks, I love it. It's an honor to be there. And man, I wanted to do that. And part of it's just because I don't use social media like a normal animal, I think. So at first I was like, yeah, I'm just going to be like, yeah, so honored to be a part, and just kind of repeat what everybody else is. And I resisted the urge to do that, which is probably bad, to be honest, because I probably should do that, because then everybody in there gets an alert that says, Chris Mercer just did this, right? So I probably should. But from a personal standpoint, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to text Roland and be like, dude, saw that. That was awesome. Thank you so much. How can I help you? And that's it. And it was exactly that, what you just said, where you're like, sometimes you know somebody who can help out. You just got to say like, I would get more out of building a relationship with Roland doing that than I would liking his post on Facebook or putting a little comment on Facebook.
Yeah.
Like, that's like for the others. And I wanted to be like, this is an opportunity for me to build a relationship with Roland more than we have already. Right. So I think that's really good advice to say, like, how can I make this it take 30 seconds, right? And just a quick little text message, still using technology to get the thing done, but it gave me a better payoff from a relationship standpoint than, you know, liking something on somebody's Facebook post.
The picture you painted in my head is like, he's going down in a parade and going, hey, there's so-and-so, and he's pointing at everybody. And then he points at you, and you're like, you do the little head nod, like, what's up? Then at the end of the parade, you go up and go, hey man, that was great, man.
Yeah.
I really liked doing that parade, you know?
Yeah. It's like I said, it's that one-on-one interaction that people just got away from that will probably get you further. You can build a very big business talking to a very few amount of people if you want.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of people, you know, I talk with, I just say, you know, pick up the phone. Mm-hmm. You know, I went out with a prospect, and of course she goes, you know, I'm like, well, where do you want to meet? Oh, well, let's meet at the $75 steak restaurant. And I go, and I'm like, she goes, let's go down to the $50 steak restaurant. And I'm like, let's go to Taco Bell. I'll buy you $1. But, you know, the thing is that when I was talking with her there, a lot of people want to do this phone thing. She even asked me, what are your prices? I go, it doesn't work like that. I go, I got to whiteboard your whole business.
Yeah.
And you got to spend time with me so I can see whether we're a fit and you can see the value. And then I said, I just do it over Zoom. And she goes, well, I'll just come up to your office. And I was like, yeah. You're controlling the sale, but so what went through my head is it better to have her in my office or to have her what I'm used to? So I'm going to test it in my office, but.
Yeah, that'll be interesting, because I'm the same with you. Our entire team is distributed, right? So we've got eight team members now over, you know, half of them are in the Philippines and half of them are here in Texas, and everybody's distributed. We do have a WeWork location. So we use that for the occasional, like, hey, let's get together with a conference room and we can jump into WeWork, but most of us never use that. It's just, you know, we're in offices, and Zoom is what we use. We use that exact same setup, and most clients don't care. You know, some people just, they need to be in front of somebody though. That's their communication style. And then you have to adjust to that if the client is worth doing that, for sure.
Do you pay for WeWork like on a monthly? I
do. Yeah. So we did with a hot seat, I think they call it. It's like $350 a month for us. And it was just kind of gives me 24-hour access, and I can get in there, and I really legitimately use it nights, weekends, and holidays. That's the only time I'm ever in there. Okay. Because I don't like the environment of WeWork, because it's too much party. People. Yeah, it's just, it doesn't seem like enough work.
It's like a nightclub. I go in there and I'm like, wow, dude.
I feel so old school, but I'm exactly like that. I'm like, well, you people should be at work right now, not drinking margaritas on a Monday at noon. Like,
I go in there wearing a hat, a t-shirt, and shorts. And I'm like, oh, I'm the old guy at the freaking.
We are absolutely the old guys at WeWork. It's true. But I'll tell you, nights and weekends, it is a good change of pace. And the ideas I come up with there in that peace and quiet outside of my home office, which is an amazing home office. I love it. But it's different anchors here. And there is different. It's just a different environment. And my brain works a little differently there. So I find it useful. And it's not, I'm like not working 48 hours a week. I'm just, you know, go to Sunday for a few hours or something to spend there. And it's so worth that money. I think by the hour, I'm probably paying more than most people pay at WeWork. Yeah. But it's worth it because I get that jog. And occasionally we'll bring in the team and, you know, take a conference room or something that is during the day.
So if we need know that we're at the top of the hour, but you know that WeWork bought Meetup.
Yes. Yeah. That was a
If you
couple years
buy a
back.
meetup,
Yep.
you get to go to WeWork for free.
Yep.
You get to schedule in free time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you spend $75 for 6 months, and then you just go to WeWork.
It's like the WeWork hack. The worst WeWork hack is at least the one that I've been to, the ones I've been to, you just walk right in.
Yeah.
Anyway, I've talked to people that are like, yeah, I've been doing this for like 8 months. I'm not even a member. Like, all right. There's a lot of issues that WeWork has with their business model. That's a whole other topic of conversation. If they knew the leakage that they were getting out there and everything else, whole other podcast.
Yeah, right. So cool. Well, so then now how do people find you? I know you're at the measurementmarketing.io, but what are some of the ways, and there's actually one question I like asking at the end of this, is what is the one thing that you have not done in your business yet that you want to do?
The one thing, that's a good question. You wait that till the end. So I think the one thing that I have done in my business that I've not done yet is find that person who is adding to our team, that or person or system or whatever, but that to get out there and network and be that person. I am naturally introverted. I play an extrovert on TV, right? And occasionally at the internet marketing party or something else that's going on here in Austin. And I like hanging out with people, but it discharges my energy, right? I expend energy to do that. I like being introverted. I like sitting at home, and if I'm going to be at a beach party with a bunch of people, I like being off on the side where there's nobody around, because it's renewing me, right? But that is not conducive to making sales, because you got to be out in front of people.
Right.
So to find somebody, because right now we don't have that person on our team, but to find somebody who is that person, where they're like, I get fueled by being in front of people and telling the story over and over again, and creating that sales team. I think that's what we need as a business to take us to, or help take us to the next level.
Yeah.
So what we're doing now is like putting structure in place so that we can take advantage of those people when they arrive.
Yeah. I'm group hug me in the middle.
You're group hugging. Nice.
I just love being around people.
That's awesome.
So how would people find you? What are some of the things, and what are some of the things you offer?
Sure. So obviously our site, measurementmarketing.io, but we're going to set up a link. So just go to measurementmarketing.io/automation rehab, the name of this podcast. So measurementmarketing.io/automation rehab, all one word. And we'll set that up so it'll go into the traffic tracking toolkit. And so you'll get that toolkit. And in addition to that toolkit, I'll get you all the other free resources as well. So when you get back in the members area, you'll see I'll make sure that everything's unlocked for it. So it'll be free. Nobody's got to pay for anything. Just sign up for it. And in the back, you'll see the toolkit. There'll be marketing behavior toolkit back there waiting for you. We'll have regex for anybody who wants to learn regular expressions. There's lots of free stuff that you can take advantage of to get you started on your measurement journey. So,
and I think you actually said it's easier than the regex. You said it's really simple.
Yeah. Right.
On your website.
Right. Regex is simpler than it looks. As long as you go through that structure. That's exactly right. What you said. But you got to know the story. It's the same thing. You got to learn how to read the symbols, tell a story. And then once you know all the different symbols and what story they tell, it's a lot easier to use it. So
right. Well, cool. Well, thanks for having you on board. So again, it's Mercer with measurementmarketing.io, and we will actually see you. What's your next event, or where are you speaking next? What's going on there?
So I'll definitely be in March. Convention season starts up. So I'll be at Social Media Marketing World for anybody that's going to be there. I will be Social Media Week in Austin, and I'll also be Traffic and Conversion. So I'll be out there in March when Traffic and Conversion hits. So I look forward to seeing everybody out there.
Yeah, and I'm in San Diego, but I just want to go back to Austin so bad. Last time I was there, you and I actually talked at the Digital Marketer office.
Oh, perfect. Was one of the Digital Marketer Partner Days?
Yeah.
Nice.
It was about 3 years ago.
So it's time.
I know.
It's time.
Cool. All right. Okay. Well, thanks again. And once again, it's Mercer with measurementmarketing.io, and go there, go to measurementmarketing.io/automation rehab, get your free toolkit, and learn a lot more, and definitely join you have a free membership site as well, right?
So when they get the tool, it'll create a membership account for them, and it's all in there. So they'll automatically get the free level membership.
And there is a bunch of cool stuff in there, and you can start building your business, doubling the size of your business, and most important, getting the measurement of your business and understanding what's happening from stem to stern, So if it's a 1 and it should be a 0, you will know to make that 0 a 1 or that 1 a 0 at a glance using Mercer's tools at measurementmarketing.io. So I want to thank you for showing up, Chris.
No, it's been a pleasure, man. Appreciate you having me, and I look forward to the next chat.